right? So anytime you put the word illness with something, it's a stigma. TBI, right? I don't have TBI, but you do, Mike. So what does that mean? I mean, so when you use the word TBI a lot, I mean, we use the acronym a lot, but a lot of folks don't know what it means. And there's a stigma associated with this as well. And I'd like you to explain what TBI is, because I don't think a lot of people understand what it is.
So TBI is an acronym for traumatic brain injury. Basically, what we have discovered about traumatic brain injury or head trauma, in the last decade plus, is that head trauma is actually a cumulative effect. Now, as we go deeper into this, as it pertains to the U.S. military, which I have 22 years of experience enduring, is sustained head traumas from parachute landings, from in a couple of cases, concussive blasts. I got blowed up. Wasn't my fault. It was the enemy's. Knocking your head, all kinds of things. Well, what happens is there's a cumulative effect, and what we're looking at is inflammatory response inside of the gray matter in the brain, and that's just me trying to sound like I know what I'm talking about. And this is a lot deeper than that. But what happens is it affects the brain in almost the exact same manner as post-traumatic stress disorder. So what was happening in the past is they were giving people large amounts of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, commonly referred to as antidepressants. And it was having very bad effects, because what is happening with TBI, and this is me being very simplistic, so all you MDs and PhDs and scientists out there, please don't lose your minds. But we're looking at something that is more electrical than it is chemical. And it is the brain rerouting electrical signals to other areas. And there's a cost to that. One in particular that I have, a lot of other guys have, on top of becoming more ancient as time goes on, is memory loss. I can't remember entire conversations. Some other things that happened to me is I had damage to my occipital lobe, as it was explained to me. So like certain sounds I can't hear, certain tones. It's not that I can't hear it. It's that my brain doesn't process it correctly. So I had to get fractal hearing aids that actually helped with a lot of the noise. Concentration is very hard. But I'm just speaking for Mike. There's even worse ones out there. And I have a lot of friends that have suffered, and there are people out there currently suffering. There are people from Vietnam and that probably have undiagnosed brain trauma. We're still just kind of cracking the code on that. But, when you say traumatic brain injury, and I told you that it presents in the exact same manner as post-traumatic stress disorder does, but one carries with it a very heavy stigma, because there is a lot of misunderstanding about post-traumatic stress disorder. So there's different schools of thought that are looking to take post-traumatic stress disorder and change it to post-traumatic stress injury, which I totally agree with. I think that is more accurate depiction. PTSD also carries with it that it's relegated to combat. No, it's not. Trauma is trauma, man. And that's the whole thing. There's lots of people that have post-traumatic stress injury. And then I heard something when I was reading a book called Anti-Fragile, and then I heard it again when I got familiar with an author named Kenneth Falk in the book Struggle Well, Post-Traumatic Growth. And that is the journey that we're talking about, is overcoming these horrible stigmas and going into the growth aspect of it. Whereas, before it was like, we're going to medicate you, and that's fine. It'll carry you so far. But there's another piece to it that's missing, and that's, sitting down with a professional and actually going through these cognition errors and working with other people who are struggling as well is a huge benefit to this. The aspect of community, to not feel so alone. that feeling of alone is dangerous. I mean, the isolation aspect alone, and alcoholism or depression or any of it, I mean, pick your poison. It's dangerous. It's how can I get better if it's just me, myself, and I trying to carry myself when I don't have the answer. The answer is it's outside of me. And I heard another good one from a great 12-step meeting, my good friend Tim, who said, my head is a bad neighborhood, and if I go walking around it alone, I'm going to get mugged. So again, we need each other. It's so important that we have one another. We put our hand out for help, and that, we crush these stigmas associated with all these titles, just like you said. And by the way, what was that code again for? It was 55.5?
Which one? 52.21 for male erectile disorder, man.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I said it on podcast land. I said it. And mine is actually closely tied into my post-traumatic stress, as I would later discover. And I was ashamed of it. I always, I'm not going to lie to you. I still wrestle with it, man. I'm ashamed. And what I'm working on is to not be a hypocritizer right here, right now in podcast land, and tell you it's okay, man. You ain't alone. Just don't take all 100 milligrams of the Viagra, because you will get a headache. I didn't know I was supposed to cut it in half. Whoops.
Oh my God, dude, that's awesome.